I don't know about you, but I can tell you something. Bikers kind of scare me. There isn't a joke, this is a true statement. But I'd rather be feared if I can't be loved. And what's more scary than a biker who runs at his enemies head on without fear of death? Can you beat Days Gone without using guns? We have anarchy, people. That's how you know it's a real zombie game. Amidst the chaos, we found our protagonist, Deacon St. John. That's a pretty cool name. My wife got stabbed, boo-hoo for her, I guess. We found a helicopter with a neuroscientist. Nero stands for never eat raw onions. How else did you think the zombies got here? I pointed a gun at a grad student. I'm a real stable guy, just like real life. I abandoned my wife to spend more time with Boozer. That's the bald guy. It's been 2 years now. This woman is dying. I feel like I went through this already. I finally got to play the game now. The driving controls on PC are a little hard to get used to. On foot now, I began tracking a guy named Leon. He killed the girl that we're upset about. Leon gave me a taste for bullets, and boy am I hungry. I actually have a graze on my arm, which is nice attention to detail. Leon was spilling his guts to me. I pointed a gun at him after he revealed where his stash was. He begged me to kill him so as not to get eaten alive. The hole in his skull was so realistic, I'm gonna have to censor it. I learned my first crafting. The bandage is actually on my arm where the wound was. Leon apparently shot my bike's fuel pump, meaning I need to find another. This is my first experience of riding on the back of someone's bike. We were headed to a local gas station to hopefully find a fuel pump. The road was blocked in what looked like an obvious trap. Don't know why we didn't just go around. Got into my first experience with melee combat. Seeing as this is my main form of attack, it's nice to learn the ropes. I may have to censor a lot of these execution kills. Took out what was left of the enemies. We entered a tunnel full of zombie nests. Here's the kicker. I said without using guns, not using only melee, meaning thrown weapons, such as grenades and molotovs, are perfectly legal. And I did this for a reason. You can't kill nests without molotovs. However, I want to use melee as much as possible in this run. Made and used my first molotov. Taking on 1 to 3 zombies at a time is pretty easy, just roll away when they're about to attack, and get back to hacking and slashing. We finally made it to Kooky Williams, that's the gas station. Boozer drove through the horde, drawing away the zombies while I snuck in. I got a tutorial on newts. They're kid zombies that are skittish but territorial. It's a bold choice to have one of your killable enemies be a kid. Got my first stealth kill. Stealth is the key to this game when mainly using melee. I learned I can climb higher than I thought I could. Athletic capabilities are important in the apocalypse. I helped some kids with their homework. They failed. Got my first oil filter suppressor. Useless to me. I found a fuel pump and Boozer was in trouble. These people are the Rippers, a religious group who are totally insane. They burned Boozer's arm pretty bad. I gave them a right beatdown. They got me good. I almost died. People with guns scare me. I always bring my knife, but it's always a gunfight. I took down the last Ripper and went to check on Boozer. He was whining a lot. He only got a little toasted. He got on the back of the bike, and we escaped before the horde could get near us. We're home. Home is a watchtower, by the way. I finally got access to the open world mechanics of the game, kinda. Still in a mission. I followed a guy back to his camp. I swear, Deacon gets distracted from his main goal all the time. Found the Marauder camp. They want to kill me and Boozer so they can have our base. I used the art of crouching to make myself quieter so I could sneak up on these guys. I love making new friends. Maybe it's because it's the first camp, but the stealth mechanics seemed pretty easy. I still got caught though. Sometimes I write things like this is easy, and then I see that I fail in the video, creating moments where I contradict myself. They're all dead now. My bike was stolen, so that's cool. I followed this guy to a camp led by a man named Copeland. I spoke to the camp's mechanic. He said some idiot left their trash bike out on the road. I got mad and mentioned my dead wife. He got all cowardly, and Copeland interrupted us. He told me some exposition about his camp, and apparently Leon lived there, and I have his blood-stained hat on me. He sent me to kill some drifters in a radio tower because they were, quote, bothering him. Before I left, I got a new bike, checked out the upgrades I could get on it, then went on my way. Used my first skill point in the melee combat tree, finally made it to the Nero checkpoint. The whole reason I went out was to get Boozer some medical supplies, and it took me this long to get to it. Deacon definitely has ADHD. I have to restore power to the checkpoint, but before I do, I want to get rid of the speakers, so they don't alert zombies to my location. After that, I'll grab some fuel and refill the generator. It's a miracle these gas cans still have fuel in them. With the power on, I could enter the checkpoint. Found some medical supplies for Boozer, and a weird injection for myself. Who injects themselves with random drugs? I used my newfound drugs to increase my health. Back home, Boozer almost shot me because the fever was making him delusional, and I gave him the meds. Now, onto the radio tower. When I play this game, it feels like I'm going down a list checking everything off sometimes. Anyways, I found the camp and began my silent slaughter. I only sank into the ground a tiny bit. It's not a Bethesda game, so I'll be okay. I somehow managed to stay stealthy after this move. I'm just impressive, I guess. I got spotted with 2 enemies left. Found one, but the other was harder to locate. There was not an enemy on top of this tower. I climbed up here for nothing. I found the last guy. He was investigating my handiwork. Now he is my handiwork. I fixed the radio tower generator, and then a woman pulled a gun on me. I let her walk because she's a woman, no joke. I found their bunker, learned how to put spikes in a bat, and found a map. I forgot I was recording and opened an image my friend Monty sent me, link in description, unless I forgot to, then remind me, and I will put him there. I had to climb the radio tower, which made me feel even dumber for doing it earlier. Found some smoke near the base. That could be alarming. Turns out, it was an ambush camp, and let me tell you, this went south. A few zombies found their way into the camp and killed some of the hostiles for me. The rest I had to deal with myself, and they were already on edge. Suffice to say, I was caught pretty quick, and had to beat everyone there despite them having guns. Bullets hurt real bad. Finally got the last guy, meaning no more bandits near home. Tried to put my bike in a tree. I accidentally attracted a horde before I could even attempt this Nero checkpoint. I ran around a bit before giving up and riding off. I began to clear the nests in the logging camp, but I didn't finish it as I had died and there was a meal calling my name. Back in the game now, I cleared more nests. I only burned myself once, proving my dad wrong, and now he knows it's okay to play with fire. Once all the nests were dealt with, I headed out. Almost drove off a bridge. One time my mom's GPS told us to drive off a bridge, and that, kids, is why we don't get cheap GPS systems. I'm at the cemetery, which is where that girl from the beginning died. I'm looking for Leon's stash. After he died, his corpse crawled into the tombs or something, and hid the stash with him. Leon looked a bit different, but his lunchbox was still the same. I strapped my kid's lunch to my bike and hopped on to deliver it to him. I'm Uber Eats now. Turns out, Nero isn't completely dead. There's a black chopper flying through the sky, and I need to follow the researcher that came out of it. Sneaking past the guards was the easiest throwing a rock and walking by them. After I walked up to the Nero researcher, I got caught pretty quick. This time, I did what I was supposed to and listened. After getting the sufficient amount of intel, I escaped the area and continued my journey. I tried to see if I could break a speaker with a rock, but I don't think you can. Injected more weird substances into myself, found another Nero camp on the other side of the tunnel, cut wires, injected myself, and went on my way to continue the story. The game demanded that I meet the other main faction in this area instead of delivering the drugs to Copeland. I drove to Tucker's camp. Tucker's camp is a prison camp, but it's the kind of prison you'd see on a farm in early America, if you catch my drift. Now that I drove all the way here, I'm given the choice to give the meds to Tucker or Copeland. Seeing as I'm in Tucker's camp, I went all the way across the map to Copeland's camp to give him his Grubhub order. On the way, I burned a couple nests, which upset the locals. They didn't let me leave until they allowed me to leave. Lunchbox in hand, I gave Copeland his food. Now I can buy some upgrades. While tracking down someone on drugs, the drugged man rode by, and I had to chase him down. The game oh so desperately wanted me to sling bullets at him, but instead, I just rammed him over and over until he couldn't take it anymore. Then I tied him up and left him all alone, waiting for someone else to take him away. This head-on collision with a rail at mid-speeds with full health killed me instantly. I made it to an abandoned Nero camp, no injections here. I had to clear the zombies here so I could mourn my dead wife at a little shrine I had made. Taking on more than 2 enemies at a time can seem impossible, but you just have to whittle away at their health, one by one, until their numbers shrink and their fear grows. Once all the zombies were dead, I had a flashback to before the world's end. I saw how my wife got stabbed. It was a newt, which as a reminder, is a kid zombie. In this warehouse, I tried to talk someone down with a gun, and he's down alright. Had a sense of deja vu. Back in the real world, I spoke to this rock. Another cinematic happened, this one with a helicopter. I was tasked with chasing it down. A zombie wolf came after me. I had to risk losing the chopper to kill it so I could ride in peace. When I found the heli again, it seemed to be waiting for me. These minions opened fire on me. That didn't stop me. The researcher was trying to catch a newt unsuccessfully. They floated away and left some treats for me to fight for, including a radio. I hate kids. A lot. Anyways, I got my radio. I remembered my first meeting with my dead wife. This isn't a meet cute, by the way. If I'm stranded on the side of the road and some guy starts playfully flirting with me, I'm running away, mainly because conversation scares me. Anyways, the moment was cut short by some rednecks. I don't know what happened here because I was in the bathroom. Around the time I saw the bikers again, my editing software decided to start to crumble, so let's hope I can get through this. The rednecks got the better of me, and Sarah committed a crime. I don't think I mentioned my dead wife's name. She's Sarah. I woke up from my memory dream. I made my way to a local pancake shop. On the way there, I spent way too long and way too many lives trying to clear this raider camp. This was completely optional, by the way. I did not have to do this. It took an entire horde and the skill of hiding to clear this place. The zombies did find me, but it was too late. I was in their bunker. I took a nap in the bunker to let the horde disperse. I made it to the pancake house. They looked out of business. Small spoiler, I'm tracking a kid who's been surviving in this town, and at the river, Deacon says, "Yeah, I bet you drink water here every day," in a lower voice. Now he's clearly doing it to stay quiet, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't creepy. Rippers showed up for no reason, so now I have to kill them all. Their sniper got me good. This time I was going quiet. I managed to kill their sniper semi-undetected. The rest of the Rippers were gathered in a pretty tight group. I had to literally bite the bullet. Enemies tend not to shoot you if you have a live hostile in close range. They don't want to hit their allies. I hit this guy with a rock to stun him for a moment while I charged him. Almost at the house, I did this tactic where I'd roll from cover to cover. I don't know if it helped, but it made me feel cool, and I like to think that it helped. This guy had an accident. The pun is funnier when you realize I spelled accident with A-X-E in it. All my enemies are slain now. I found the girl. Her name is Lisa, and apparently she looks like my dead wife's little sister. So Deacon wants to make sure she's safe. I began clearing the way for Lisa. I put my least favorite Simpson in danger when I burned a nest while escorting her. There was a bear I had to kill. I know what you're thinking. You threw a Molotov or a bomb at it. No. I spent 30 minutes hacking and slashing at it with my boot knife. Long story short, he's dead now. Me and Lisa got on my bike, and I took her to the indentured servitude labor camp. I'm doing my best to avoid the S word. I'm 100% sure YouTube does not like that word. This survival hint was on my screen for longer than it should have been. It stayed there till I got my next objective. I'm going hunting with Copeland. There was no leading up to this mission, it just came up out of the blue. I tracked the deer to its location. I was given a rifle to shoot it. I tried to get close enough to bash its brains in, but I couldn't. There wasn't anything else I could do, so I had to shoot the deer, therefore failing the challenge. I followed it till it died, and then I skinned it. A Nero helicopter flew over, this one carrying O'Brien, the grad student I almost shot at the beginning of the game. I spoke to O'Brien in a similar fashion to the way I used to speak to him. I threatened him so he would tell me where my maybe not dead wife might be. He said he doesn't know, but he'd look. After I threatened him some more, surprisingly, he grew a pair, and told me to kill him if that's what I was gonna do. He also revealed that my wife survived her knife wound, and they went to a different Nero camp than the one they planned to go to. The one that was overrun and had my wife's shrine in it. So she might be alive. Anyways, enough chasing ghosts. I gave my meat to Boozer, his arm is still majorly burned, and he's running a fever. Lisa told me about how she's being overworked in this labor camp. Still don't know why Deacon took her here of all places. I think I'm tracking more drugs now. I found them on a biker who I had to kill via the old ram 'em and can 'em technique. These gas prices are crazy, same with the game gas prices too. I got a rock for Lisa, I gave it to her, and mission complete. I saved this guy from his car. I ignored the bandits as I got my yummy gasoline. Boozer's fever is rising, and that's bad, so I used the power of my dead wife to learn about Lavender. I used those powers to find Lavender. The only hiccup was the horde that followed me. Luckily, I am a coward. I climbed up a glorified tree and waited for them to lose interest. By the way, when you pause in a flashback, it says 0 days gone. Neat. Back at home, I gave Boozer a jar of mayonnaise. It's actually the lavender though, for his fever. The Rippers took Lisa, so I have to fight my way to her. This part of the game was oddly constricted and linear. I liked it though. I stealthily killed most of the Rippers successfully. There were a few hiccups, of course. This sniper proved to be quite the annoyance. I accidentally did the sprint attack I unlocked. Lisa was in shock on the ground from the torture she went through. I helped her up and I escorted her out of there. Back on my bike, I called someone new, Ricky. She's from an encampment Deacon is banned from. I met up with her and she took Lisa to a safer place, one that isn't a labor camp. On the third and far from final day of recording, I headed back to my base where my character got more sleep than I do. It must be uncomfortable to lay on that sharp club thing. Boozer was acting a little kooks, his arm had contracted blood poisoning. We hopped on my bike and rode off to find him some medicine for his wound. You probably can't hear it, but every time Deacon speaks when he's on a bike, he yells, which can be really funny when he's talking to himself. Deacon rambled on about how they carry on because they have nothing better to do, and I felt like I related to him even more. After I safely arrived at the camp area, I began to shave my beard. Not realizing it, how does Boozer not grow any hair? I decided to sneak into the camp me and Boozer were exiled from. This was a simple avoid the light, avoid the sight mission. I got caught a couple times, mainly for staying out in the open too long. Iron Mike and Skizzo, what a dumb name, were talking about the Rippers. It seemed like they were having a problem with them. I got caught stealing the meds from the infirmary. I was accused of peddling narcotics, but they were antibiotics, and my name was cleared. Me and Ricky, that green jacket girl, I think she's one of Iron Mike's lieutenants, went to go get Boozer. He seemed a little upset, but Ricky talked him down, and we brought him to the doctor. I had my first interaction with Iron Man and schizophrenia. Skizzo is a sleazeball who's got Mike's ear and whispers sweet nothings into them till Mike irons all over the place. And Iron Mike is a hard but fair grandfatherly figure to us all. I agreed to work at the camp, and in exchange, they take care of Boozer. I had the most useless walk with Mike. It was all story stuff. Lame. I went back to the infirmary to see if Addie, that's the doctor, needed anything. She sent me to get an amputation knife. If you don't catch on to that foreshadowing, you're as dumb as I was on my first playthrough of this game. I took a merry little drive over to where the knife sleeps at night. Got a tip on repairing my bike at the worst time. I had to deal with the following ambush. It felt nice to get warm blood on my hands again. I decided to walk on foot to the nearby knife palace. Tried to make this jump. You can't jump in this game. I tried throwing a rock at the ladder with no success. I then threw a rock at the padlock that was keeping the ladder in place. That worked. I found the knife's bedroom and stole it. Finally, I repaired my bike. I usually pay someone else to do this. Drove back to the camp and delivered the knife. Next on the agenda was another mission for O'Brien. I found him in his natural habitat, the wilderness. He sent me to study what the researchers were up to. The goal is yet another forced stealth mission. I like the implications these missions have on learning about the zombies, but I hate these missions. They're boring. I watched the white guy cut open a zombie while two minions held him down, got all the data I needed, and left. Lisa's gone again. She's hands down my least favorite child in any video game, and she looks old enough to be smarter than this. I got attacked while trying to enter the garage of this house, killed a few zombies, and pushed the car the tiny bit more I needed to be safe from the zombies. I found a note with Lisa's handwriting. No idea how Deacon knows that since he's never seen her handwriting before. Enough Lisa. She's a stupid idiot that I don't love, but I totally love Boozer, and he's doing just fine. I got kicked out. Skizzo used his power of seduction to tell me about a Red Cross plane that crashed in Ripper territory, and Iron Mike refuses to let anyone go there, elsewise the Rippers will attack Iron Mike's camp. But fuck Iron Mike. I want to save my lover, Boozer. I went to the border of Ripper territory and entered their area. The first time through, I thought I could drive by the Rippers. I couldn't. The second time, I did a stealth moment. I silently killed as many as I could before getting caught. I tried to target the LMG guy, but not only does he have a lot of health, but the one helmet he had completely protected his body. Third time's the charm. The LMG guy still hits like a school bus running over a bunch of school children. Sometimes he wouldn't be stunned by normal attacks, like smaller enemies would, making him the toughest enemy I've faced yet. After enough paper cuts from my knife, he succumbed to his wounds. The last guy died in seconds. Deeper in the Ripper camp, I tried to run over an LMG guy. He barely flinched. I escaped him. At the crash plane, I met the real toughest enemy I've faced yet. My knife barely tickled him, and I knew I was in deep. I could semi-easily dodge his attack. But when he did hit me, it took most of my health. Suffice to say, after 10 real minutes and several bandages, I died with his health being at half. I use these bear traps to land a few hits, though sometimes, even in a bear trap, he'd still smack me real good. Also on attempt 2, I caved and used Molotovs. Now the challenge is without guns, meaning I didn't fail, but still, I felt defeated. I got a special animation on my death this time. That was neat. On attempt 3, I threw explosives at the beast of a dead man. They did big damage. At this point, I said, screw melee, I want to kill this bastard, and made it my sole purpose to do so. In other words, I used throwables. Still no guns. It felt like as he grew closer to death, he could somehow, magically, hit me more, despite all my best efforts. I still perished to the monster. For some reason, on my 4th attempt, I couldn't roll. It's probably a bug triggered by rolling when a death cutscene plays. Of course I died. I can't roll. I tried to roll again with no success. Decided to quit to the menu to see if that would fix it. I was once again at the start of the mission. I had to quit to desktop to fix it. I can roll again. Had to kill LMG guy again. Attempt 5. I managed to get him down to half health without slashing him once, which gave me the upper hand. A short 5 minutes of hacking and slashing got him down to less than a quarter. My sprint attacks seemed to stun him a bit, giving me an opening to attack. He finally went limp after hours of this one boss. I finally got the Red Cross meds, forgot that's why I'm here. I strapped them to my bike and rode away without looking back. Skizzo and his guards covered my back as I escaped the Rippers. Ricky busted us, being upset that we broke the treaty Iron Mike had with the Rippers. Me and her rode back to Iron Mike's. When we got back to the infirmary, Boozer was being pinned by a woman half his size. I was recruited to pin down Boozer as Addy cut his arm off. After Boozer was successfully unarmed, Addy congratulated me on butchering my friend. Mike was pissed about the Ripper treaty being broken. More O'Brien missions. The researcher in this cave said that the virus was on a mission to wipe out humanity. That's scary. Too bad the odds are we'll never get to explore that more, because we probably won't get a sequel. After learning that, I once again ran back to my bike. My next mission was to do a job for Ricky that included me hunting for a man. While tracking him down, I saw him urinate on newts. Keep in mind what they are. I cleared the cabin of hostiles. The bounty decided to run at me when I had a knife to his friend's back. He's dead now, and I completed the bounty. And then the game crashed. He had to die again because crashing games suck. I gave proof of the kill to Ricky, this time without a crash. At the base of the lodge, Mike spoke to me about paying back the camp. I feel like I've done more than enough personally, especially since I'm on page 8 of this script, and at this point, I'm not even halfway through the game. Anyways, we're following a horde now. I had a tough time not alerting the horde while we followed it. It's almost like a massive group of people can look in all directions at all times. We abandoned the prospect of stealth once they entered the cave, and I told Mike we should seal it, but for that, we need TNT. Luckily, Mike just so happens to know where we can get some. Me and Mike hit the road, and it may or may not be for the TNT. From the looks of it, and the sign outside, I think we entered the preschool, so no wonder there's dead people in there. I'd also die around kids. Willingly, of course. After Mike whined a bit, I got a key that would help us find the TNT. We found that at the preschool, mind you. My next objective was to go to court. I should have seen this coming. In the courthouse, Mike got a paper telling us the private information about those of us daring enough to buy explosives legally. These guys scheduled their court date at the same time as mine. I taught them not to do that again, and all it cost me was another court date. There were a few guys on the road, nothing special. The real trouble lay in this sniper. I can't reach him, there's no way to. But I can damn well throw rocks at his bones until they shatter. I pelted him with all the rocks I was hiding in inconspicuous places. Mike shot him. What an idiot. Does he not understand that this is a no-guns playthrough? Ironically, Michael called himself a pacifist after that. I'm really starting to hate these O'Brien missions. More sneaking, more listening, more leaving. I decided to check in on Boozer. He's lost his Second Amendment rights. I'm now trying to kill someone on a bike. My bike has seen better days. I didn't have time to repair it. The second time around, I tried to repair my bike, and I actually managed to. After catching back up, I rammed the bounty's bike, causing him to fall into my loving ropes. Skizzo tried to make me do some work. Luckily, Ricky sensed my main character's aura and stopped him. We went to the hydroelectric dam. As GameStop once said, power to the players, but I'm no player, I'm a gamer. After saying that, it's no wonder Ricky decided an ice-cold swim was better than my presence. What mixes best with electricity and water? Fire. That's why we decided to burn the nests inside the dam. Ricky made a joke about me staying, but I'm going to Disney World, where my human rights will be violated. Wow, topical. Ricky then spoke ill of my dead wife. Lucky for her, there was a crowd, or else I'd send her to meet my dead wife. On our way back, there was a transformer that needed fixing. We put it off. There was an ominous foreshadowing. Addy and Ricky fought like a married couple. They're not married, though they are gay. Another O'Brien mission. There were a couple enemies outside my old base. I got Boozer's bike and rode it back to him just to rub it in his face that he can't drive without his arm. He's depressed, by the way. I got my bike stuck in a tree and died. Mike and Skizzo are having an explosive conversation. Mike sent me in Slimy to get TNT from a nearby cave. There were a few kids on the roof of the shack outside the mine, emphasis on was. These ones didn't want to come down, no idea why. Rocks only slightly annoyed this kid. The fire bombs worked well though. I got the keys to the TNT crates after burning the flesh off the newts. I entered your mom. It's red in here. I thought she'd be in menopause by now. There was a minor inconvenience behind us in the cave. That won't be a problem. We saw the last people who were down here. and only one was cannibalized. Skizzo shot some rounds, causing zombies to flood us like decaying lava. We finally found the dynamite. Skizzo lost Boozer. Get this, he was drinking. A whiny crybaby showed up. I ended her and her simps. When I found Boozer, he was staring down a horde. We spoke of alcoholism, and then we chickened out and rode away. After that attempt on his life, I asked Ricky to make Boozer a knife arm so that way he could feel like a pirate. For that, I had to drive all the way to this construction site and get a metal tube. This gameplay is fantastic. I gave the supplies to Ricky so she could make the knife hand. Not even 5 minutes later, Boozer was getting the knife arm attached. He's completely sane and rational with it. You won't believe it, but O'Brien is calling me. He's telling me to do one last job. Boozer wants to tag along. Why not? He's only a shell of a man, not quite a rotting corpse of one yet. You know the gist of these missions by now. I'm not repeating myself. I will say, playing these missions is significantly more fun than watching and editing them. O'Brien called me one last time, telling me to meet him in person. In person, O'Brien showed me Sarah's medical papers, showing me she made a recovery from the knife wound. Then he told me that she is very much still dead. Boozer was gone from my bike. He was off hunting rippers trying to save this dog. I did the thing YouTube commenters hate and wiped out the rest of the rippers. Me and Boozer are best friends. Deacon finally admitted his wife was dead. I dropped Boozer off at the worksite where he belongs for punching me. I made my way to a church. I cleared it of its inhabitants. The combat in this game has become mostly easy due to all my skills I've gotten. I finally decided to mourn my dead wife. I'm at my wedding now. The pastor looks like he's so scared he crapped himself. Boozer's the only person who came. I snapped back to reality, or so my favorite chocolate candy told me I did. The pastor left. Yeah, we're back in the memory again. And now we're not. I did a big sin and left. Time to fix that transformer from a few paragraphs ago. There's a few newts up there. Shouldn't be a problem. Just have to get up there and kill them all before they can get to Ricky. A few dead kids later, Ricky finished her job. Iron Mike gave me a speech about how we should be trusted. We did a god thing. Ricky tried to seduce me, but she's gay and that's conflicting. Also, Skizzo was watching. Creep. The next day, I asked Addie if she had any antidepressants. She suggested getting a dog instead. I managed to kill this guy with a rock, but wasn't able to repeat it. I found a dog in an outhouse. He was happy to leave the stinky poop palace. I gave the dog to Boozer. This was all for Boozer, by the way. Didn't mention that. For some reason, I went under the lodge with Skizzo, surprised he didn't shank me. Instead, Skizzo told me he knew where to find det cord for the TNT from earlier. Too bad it's in Ripper territory, but luckily, Skizzo will go with me to be my knight in shining armor. There were a few doggies that wanted to play, but I'm not a chew toy. These guys are having fun. I choked this dying woman with ease. The warehouse with the det cord was filled with newts. At least it was before I filled it with new corpses. We found the det cord in a box. Skizzo betrayed me, no surprise there. I was tortured a bit by Carlos, that's the Ripper leader, who's actually Jesse, someone me and my MC tortured before the end of the world. After my torture, Lisa came in. She's a Ripper now, and she set me free. I had to stealth my way back to my gear. Then I had to stealth my way to the guy who had my leather jacket. Then I had to save Lisa. She hugged me, and then I could escape. Lost Lake was in a little bit of a war. I had to shoot a Ripper to save these hostages. I couldn't let them die, and rocks were useless because I couldn't use them. I shot him and pressed on. Before this Ripper could kill the camp's doctor, a ceasefire was called by Mike and Carlos. At the lodge, Mike was mad at Skizzo for selling me and Boozer out to Carlos. I decided to make things worse by putting a blade to Skizzo's neck. I looked crispy. Things got heated after Mike learned why Carlos wanted us. Carlos left to avoid further bloodshed. Me and Boozer got to live and stay at Lost Lake, and Skizzo will be held accountable via a trial. Me and Boozer formed a plan to finish off the Rippers and Carlos. I stole the dynamite and took it to Boozer's cabin. Skizzo's cabin was a mess. I got a nice useless object and the det cords and left. Ricky caught me preparing the TNT for not its intended purpose. She didn't stop me though. Me and Boozer rode off to Ripper territory with little resistance. At the dam that we were going to blow up, Boozer set the charges while I covered him with a gun. I've long since lost this challenge, why do I continue? After he placed the final charge, we blew it. The following flood killed off most of the Ripper population, but Carlos was still alive in his golf resort. Clearing out the ground forces around the cabin wasn't hard at all. It was harder to not ignore them and rush all the way to Carlos and make him kiss my toes. I killed this crusher with a sneak attack, thanks to the skill I got a while back. Boozer boosted me up to the arena with Carlos. They do it off camera. Carlos gave me some sugar. It was a disappointing battle, not half as hard as what's to come. He died pretty quick. Back at camp, Mike was mad that I stole the TNT and killed Carlos, but no more Rippers, so that's cool. Ricky and Addie triggered a memory of my dead wife. She saved me from a security guard at her workplace. I was trying to teach her to drive the bike, we only almost died. She got back to work, memory over. I called O'Brien, told him Sarah was a VIP of sorts. He began looking into it again. Pretty quickly he called me and told me to meet him. He found her ID badge from work. Deacon takes it as a sign she's alive. I take it as a sign that they could have found it on a zombie. He also told me of a local militia. I asked Mike to show me how to get to an area called Crater Lake or something. He said he would, but I can't come back if I leave. I spoke to Boozer before heading out, giving him the leather vest I have. Ricky was mad, but her opinion is invalid. With a new jacket adorned, me and Mike rode off to Crater Lake. Once we reached the scripted cutscene, me and Mike went our separate ways. My first task in this new region is saving these guys from a zombie bear. The bear fight from earlier and this bear fight are practically the same. Lots of slashing and dodging. It was going pretty well until I had to pause the game. When I hit resume, I got hit and killed instantly. Attempt 2 was the same thing, just no pause, and I actually won this time. The survivors were from a local militia camp. One of them took me to their camp where I met their commanding officer, who had the ring I gave my wife all those years ago. Corey, that's the CEO, told me this army was waging war against the zombies. I spoke to this junkie named Taylor, he's important for later, checked out the nearby tents for my dead wife, she's not there, no surprise. Me and Curry are tracking an AWOL soldier. We tracked him to a lumber mill where he was playing a prank on this woman. She's about to get silly string all over her. I threw stealth aside and rushed every enemy I saw. Once they were all killed, I saw what remained of the prank. She left without eating her birthday cake. Corey told me I passed the test. Now I get to meet the colonel, who henceforth will be called the general because I can't spell colonel. Corey showed me the fortress and his dead wife, but I did not show him mine. In the fortress, I met the general as he swore me in. The general gave me the grand tour, introducing me to the local officers of this military. First was the doctor, then Weaver, the local demo man, too bad he's not Scottish, then a ghost who shouldn't be here. It's my dead wife. She was never dead. This would be a great plot twist for a kid's game, but I want a story with consequences. My no longer dead wife needed yeast from this visitor center. The 3 breakers were easy to stealth kill. I found the yeast in the kitchen pantry and gave her the baking material. I hope she makes a cake. The doctor told me that all the gangs in LA were uniformed when the zombies came, but I don't think that would happen in reality. But the cartel would definitely survive. My no longer dead wife needed yeast from this visitor center. The 3 breakers were easy to stealth kill. I found the yeast in the kitchen pantry and gave her the baking material. I hope she makes a cake. The doctor told me that all the gangs in LA were uniformed when the zombies came, but I don't think that would happen in reality. But the cartel would definitely survive. You don't know how big this map is till you run out of gas going uphill. Remember Taylor? Yeah, I do. He's being held hostage in a little camp because he wanted drugs. He can't hear me now. This small drop killed me. I took out the campers. This guy had Taylor at gunpoint. I've been here before. I shot him and then rescued Taylor and then left him there so that way someone else could pick him up for me. As I was bringing Sarah some sugar, Weaver seemed to be fighting with her. He won't have any of her cake because of that. My dead wife then decided to be a bitch wife and asked me what I was doing here. I made my way to a truck that crashed because it was carrying styrofoam. We're gonna mix that with some gasoline to recreate Vietnam. There aren't supposed to be cougars and missions. An Australian snake told me so. I gave Weaver his cups and he showed me the power of fire. Corey sent me to hunt this biker down. He was a tough one, not because of his health, but because my bike condition was low and his goons had automatic weapons. My bike died. Attempt 2 went mostly the same. Attempt 3 was definitely worse. We're on 4 now. You know what happened. 5 was more of the same, as was 6. On 7, I decided to fix my bike beforehand. That helped a lot actually, and with enough bashing, he died, or at least his bike did. My dead wife ignored me. She's going with me to get supplies this time so we can bond. I got my bike repaired while she was still on it. Went to an old college, fitting given the time of year. Back to school I go. In the campus, I told Sarah to cover me while I killed all the swarmers. My axe made quick work of all the rotting corpses. A short killing spree later, and we were back indoors. This pushable car was so blatantly obvious, but I couldn't push it yet. I had to wait for my wife to be in danger. Now I can push it. Dead wife was pretty shook. In this room of dead people, we found what we needed and took it with us. Hardest part of leaving were the enemies waiting for us, specifically the heavy. He still died, as he should. I had to deal with more heavies, but I'm pretty much a pro at this by now. We brought the printer back to the fortress. Taylor is guarding the doctor now. Sarah was looking at her potatoes. We rode off to get another printer for her. The electricity was still on at Sarah's old workplace. She used this knowledge to use the handprint reader to get us in. We found corn, someone killed all the people in these cars. A camera was still operating, meaning someone was inside. Those people made themselves present when they shot at me. We got trapped in this glass hallway. The glass was rock-proof, but not bulletproof. Had to kill some more like that, unfortunately. The atrium doors locked and Sarah couldn't get in. Her solution was to give me a temporary pass that had a higher clearance than her worker's pass. Of course it works. These guys are weak. They died quickly. Jim was the one keeping us from getting what we needed. He's the guy from the past. He opened the door for us and Sarah killed him. Sarah told me her research is what created the zombies. We got a nice new water cooler. Corey watched me kiss my wife as we got back. The doctor is dead. Taylor killed him. I need to find Taylor. I picked up the best melee weapon in the game. I repair this weapon more than I repair my mental health. This new weapon made this game a breeze for the most part. Even heavies die in a few hits. After I cleared all of Taylor's friends, I found him sitting next to a fire, scared to be hung. Personally, I wish to be hung, if you catch my cold. I killed him with heroin, and Curry finally met me seconds after his death. Back at base, Sarah told me to kidnap a newt. I killed all of them with my knife except the one she needed. I used the trank gun she gave me. It doesn't count, the zombie didn't die. Even if it did, I failed by now, so does it really matter? I put the child on my bike, and Curry told me to keep my relationship with Sarah professional. Sarah injected the newt with her virus, and it killed it in seconds. She was mad because she didn't resurrect the dead kid. Me and her decided we'd try to go AWOL to find a cure. This is the moment I've been preparing for since day one. I have to kill a horde without firing a single shot. The horde found me pretty quick. My own bombs can hurt me if I'm not careful. I threw pipe bombs into the crowd, which without context sounds horrible. I was surprised how much damage I was able to do to the horde. I began to use my super Molotovs. They were volatile compared to my regular mollies. By the time I had to resort to my regular Molotovs, most of the horde was already dead. I killed the last few with my bad axe. Corey congratulated me on my success. The general moved Sarah and Weaver to the cave at the center of the island. The general quoted the Bible. He's super religious, by the way. I saw the general's quarters. Sarah sent me to go get some poisonous plants for her. Obvious foreshadowing's obvious. I delivered the obvious poison to Sarah. I met up with O'Brien again. He's gonna fly me and Sarah out of there. But first, I have to find a lost recon team and dissect a zombie. I did a neat trick on this tree. I reached the cave that was holding the zombie and recon team. The recon team were all dead, except for this guy, who died after speaking to his wife. The Reacher zombie found me. Then he found the end of my blade. A horde followed the sound of my panic and tried to kill me. They were unsuccessful though. I gave O'Brien his samples. Now he's willing to fly me out of the military base. The general was preaching about how the militia would soon kill all other non-militia camps. Me and Sarah had to leave that night. I had to disable the RPGs so the chopper could fly in. Then I had to save Sarah. The world looked a little broken. Then I had to go to the peak of the island. Skizzo was there. The helicopter flew by without us. Me and Skizzo were tied up in the general's quarters. Kinky. They ripped my shirt off. Now it's getting hot in here. They were gonna hang me, but Curry saved me, gave me my ring, and ran off. I rode to Iron Mike's to try to warn them, but by the time I got there, Mike had been shot. He died slowly. Then I gave a small speech trying to encourage more people to fight the militia. Me, Ricky, and Boozer formed a plan to fill a dump truck with explosives and use it as a huge bomb to blow our way into the base. Ricky was gearing up the truck to be a tank. I had to clear another horde so we could get fertilizer to make a bomb. This horde was much easier than the last one. This fence was useful to confuse the horde's pathing. Once their numbers were small enough, I began to hack and slash at the remainders. After being soaked in blood, I finally killed the last zombie. Me and Boozer filled the truck with fertilizer, he drove off, and now we're on to step 2. Not gonna lie, I'm skipping over a few missions, mainly because they're not important to the story at all. Time to clear the biggest horde yet. Yeah, this sucked. There was no way I'd be able to kill all of them with just throwables. I had run out, and I resorted to my nemesis for aid. I fired bullet after bullet, but there were still too many. After all my ammo depleted, I went to the local gun store and bought some guns and ammo. That was still not enough. This felt impossible to do, let alone with the idea of not using guns. I was hoping the SMG would be amazing, but somehow it was the worst gun I have used thus far, and I've only used like 3. Back at the gun store, I got a shotgun to complement my other shotgun. By this point, I had used all my healing supplies and there were still so many zombies. The shotguns are fine, the only problem is how long it takes to rechamber a shell. I died, and surprisingly it's my first death here. I barely managed to get on my bike in time before they got me. More ammo, more killing. After using all my ammo and nearly dying, I tried to lure them to the camp to see what would happen. They didn't let me in, and I died. The next real day, I finally managed to kill the final zombie. Finally, I can fill the truck with whatever I need to make it one giant bomb. Boozer and I were getting ready to begin our fight with the militia. He gave me my old vest back. Addie and Ricky summoned an army to help us fight, and we rode out. Boozer blew himself up in the bomb. This is the final mission of the game, so I shouldn't be surprised that they threw their toughest at me. Keep in mind, my bat axe is nearly dead, so I don't use it at all here. I had to fight my way to the upper entrance of the caves, a path that had more heavies than anywhere else. Each one as painstakingly hard to kill as the last, especially the one that followed me into this tower. Finally in the caves, I had to defuse 3 bombs so we wouldn't all die. After fighting basically 3 consecutive hordes, this was easy in comparison. With the final bomb defused, I could finally head to the general's chamber. On the way there, I saw Skizzo holding Weaver at knife point. I had to shoot him. Luckily, it didn't kill him. Skizzo sent every last soldier after me in an attempt to finally put an end to me. They seemed to never end, until they finally did. Skizzo managed to disarm me with explosives. I had to roll from cover to kill him. The final fight was summed up with one quick time event. Skizzo is finally dead. I had my gun on the general, but I threw it away after he kindly asked me to. I sat next to him and was offered tea. Before the general could kill me, the poison in his tea kicked in and killed him. I found Boozer alive, I gave one final speech to the survivors, and finally did not beat Days Gone without using any guns. Jesus, this took forever. I recorded a total of 22 hours and 49 minutes of gameplay, then edited it all down and wrote a 15-page script for it, and on top of all that, I had college. So please, if for some ungodly reason you made it this far, subscribe and like. I could really use the motivation. As always though, if you have any challenge ideas, feel free to let me know. If you liked the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. If you didn't like the video, let me know what I could do better. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.